Hi, Jason Perlow with ZDNet Tech Broiler, and I'm here with a rather interesting phone, or rather, why is this smartphone different from all other smartphones? Which is a good question to ask given that Passover is coming this weekend. So this smartphone is the Meizu Pro 5 from China. Meizu is a smartphone manufacturer that is emerging in the industry, and you may not know about them in the United States because they've mostly shipped their phones to China, the Oceania region, in Australia, that region, also different parts of Europe. But they're emerging and they're shipping more and more phones. They're known for making really high quality hardware for rather inexpensive prices. You can see here, we've got here a 21 or it's a 24 megapixel camera, dual LED flash with laser, brush, metal body, high definition screen. It's got a fingerprint reader built into it. So it's got a lot of high-end hardware. It even uses Samsung's own octa-core Exynos 7420 processor, the very same that's used in the Samsung Galaxy S6. This phone only costs $369, which is pretty amazing considering all the hardware that's in it. 32 gig of flash storage, 3 gigs of RAM. Again, the Exynos processor, the really kick-ass camera, the really kick-ass screen. So why is this phone different? Well, this phone was originally introduced with Android back in September of 2015. But in during Mobile World Congress, this phone was announced with Ubuntu. As you know, the very same Ubuntu open source operating system that you can install on your PC. Now, Ubuntu has been working on a smartphone operating system for quite a while, smartphone tablet OS. I'm going to say that probably a good 3 or 4 years now. And they haven't made a ton of progress with OEMs. Meizu is taking some risks, obviously, by introducing a product, although they're basically taking their Android product and basically installing a different preload of an operating system than Android on it. Now, why did they do this? Well, obviously this is a completely open source operating system. You are not dealing with Google in any way. There are no licensing encumbered components running on it at all. So if you are a vertical application developer, you can write software that you can take fairly complex web applications and convert them to run on this phone. What's kind of interesting is this is sort of a reintroduction of a concept that HP and Palm introduced with WebOS. Remember WebOS from a couple of years ago? It was 2011, 2012, it might have been earlier than that. The failed tablet operating system that also ran on Linux used web as their primary application development language, HTML5. This is very similar. So if you take a look at some of the applications that I have running on here, I can try to pull up. It's kind of hard to use the multitasking interface when I'm using this one-handed. You can see here I've got a refactored web application. This is actually TweetDeck, which is the web version of TweetDeck running in the HTML5 rendering engine running on Ubuntu within, I guess, Ubuntu's browser engine. Runs pretty fast. It's the same exact TweetDeck that runs on your desktop in Chrome or something like that. But they've made some changes. I guess they've tweaked the JavaScript and some other things so that it renders in the screen size correctly. Now, not all applications obviously can be turned into web applications, but quite a few can. I've got, for example, Facebook here also. Facebook has been changed into a web application. It's also been done for Gmail and a few other things. And I guess, again, the performance is not bad. Now, obviously, if you have access to the source code for a web application, it's a lot easier. If you have a line of business application you have created, then you can write an application for Ubuntu. Now, here's the kicker. Getting developers to write web applications for Ubuntu is going to be something of a challenge if you don't have the source code to the web application stack itself. You would think that you would have access to all the other apps that Ubuntu has, but in reality, you can only use the applications that have been designed specifically for this smartphone operating system. So you can't use any Ubuntu application that has been written for Ubuntu. It's got to be specifically for this smartphone stack, right? So the other thing that's kind of interesting about Ubuntu as a smartphone operating system is they have this concept of scopes, which again is very similar to what existed in WebOS, is where you have a consolidated view of content that may be coming in from different social accounts or linked accounts, such as your Twitter feed or your Facebook feed or your Instagram and other things like that. So it's supposed to be a more efficient way of looking at data in different ways. So here's, like, for example, I got my Instagram, I got my Facebook. These are my consolidated photos from accounts that have been configured, right? So if you go into, like, here, I can change the source of the data. I can add my different social accounts, all those other things. So all this stuff is kind of neat. I like the idea of the alternative open source operating system to Android. There are a few others out there, like the one that Samsung's developing for their own lower end smartphones in India and some other developing countries. I think it's cool. Now the only problem is that it's a bit slow to run some of these apps. Like, for example, I've got like the built-in email client or the context client. Some of these, if they're not running in memory, so like if I kill like these tasks, right? So I'm going to kill a bunch of tasks here. I'll just show you how long it takes to execute some of these things. Once you have them running in memory, it's not so bad. But like, for example, if you have nothing running in memory and you want to start firing up some tasks, it takes a bit of a while to fire them up. So like, here's the context program. So you can see from startup to getting it running, it takes a while, right? So like, in Android, that would be like a nearly instantaneous action to get the context manager running. So like I said, there are benefits to using a fully open source stack, that uses web-based development, web-based development ideology, that's completely open source. If you are producing vertical market applications, like if you need to buy these phones for like a fleet application, I don't know, if you're in a shipping company, if you're an airline, or if you're doing something very specific where you own all the source code to that web application and you want to deploy it, this is kind of a neat way to do it. Especially if you want to make use of all this hardware on this thing. It's got like I said, a smart a fingerprint reader, so you want to develop a high security Linux application with web-based standards. This would be kind of a cool phone to do it with. I don't know if it's going to be a huge consumer success, but just from the perspective and seeing what Meizu is doing with their hardware, this is a really neat device. I'm going to be getting in the successor to this phone, the Meizu Pro 6, in a few weeks to look at, and that is actually a fully homegrown Chinese technology phone. It doesn't even use Samsung's processor. It uses a Chinese-made deca-core processor. So it's interesting to see what this company is doing from an innovation standpoint, right? Taking a risk with Ubuntu is kind of ballsy, to be honest with you. But like I said, it's a cool phone, cool company doing cool stuff. Very interested in seeing what they're doing in the future. So again, it's Jason Perlow with ZDNet Tech Broiler and the Meizu Pro 5 Ubuntu Edition. Talk to you later.